Tamil portfolio
so which was taken away the economical, social, and cultural, all the rights and all of the rights from the Sinhalese, political rights as well, taken away, and it became one single entity, so which is gone to the Sinhalese. So you can clearly say, now Tamils are living without a land. So it is invasion going on. So to completely evacuate Tamils and completely, eradicate Tamils from the, traditional homeland. So it is now going to the direction of the structural genocide. So it's going on that direction. So we would like to today we are here to explain you what's going on and strengthen this topic. So we have some panelists here. Sorry, yeah, I would like to introduce a bit about myself. My name is Jiva. I'm an engineer by profession. I'm coming from Chennai, India. So I'm just attending this 37 conference with Dr. Paul Newman, who is as well a well-known human rights activist. So we have in this panel, so we have Reverend Father Sabamala Emmanuel, a Tamil Catholic priest, a Tamil rights activist from Manar, and Mr. G. Ponnambalam. He's the president of TNPF, former member of parliament in Sri Lanka. And we have Father J. Balan Cruz. He's one of the earliest person in just raising his hand in the United Nations since decades. So he's also here. He is an expert. And Miss Simit Gatsan Chandraleela as well here. So we are now starting the topic with Reverend Father Sabamala Emmanuel. The floor is yours, Father. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Father Sabamala, working in the Diocese of Mana, and also I have been working with the families of the enforced disappearances in the Northeast, and also I was involved in other various human rights issues like land grabbing, militarization, ongoing intimidations, etc., etc. So when I look at the situation in Sri Lanka, human rights situation, there is no any change in the human rights issue. So much so, it is nowadays getting worse, because you must have seen violations are increasing. In Kandy, you see a lot of Muslims villages have been burned and destroyed, and so this kind of violation is on the increase. There is also talk about the OMB, and we know that OMB, the victims in the Northeast categorically reject the office of the OMB because none of the recommendations were taken into considerations in the office. And also there is the ongoing militarization and land grabbing is ongoing. You see, for example, I am from Mana, and there is a village called Mullikulam. These people were fighting since more than 20 years. The people belonging to that area are still living under the cottage, under the trees and temporary shelters. So they have been fighting, and the promises were given by the government that the land would be released. But despite their promises, still the land is occupied by the army, and also it's developing. They are developing for their own purpose. So that is a whole village consisting of more than 450 families. The people are living outside and they are allowed to go to the church, and also it is difficult to go to the church. They have to travel 2 kilometers and more than 2-3 kilometers to go to the church. So this is the and there are other in Mana, there are other lands. There is also another land that is 500 acres of land that is occupied by the Sri Lankan army, that is not released. So private land as well as the government land for the military purpose. And also there's a land called Mullikulam. Some 60 families, they were living more than decades, but it is occupied nowadays by the Sri Lankan naval forces. They have 5 cases in the courts, but they have not get an answer yet. And militarizations and other building up Buddhist statues in the area where there is no any Buddhist persons is still ongoing. When it comes to the intimidations by the CID and TID, it is in a way it's going on. There was an incident to me also happened in Jaffna when I went to hand over the passport for visa in the VFS office, and the CID people, they were following me up to the Puneri bridge, and so that was it's kind of intimidation in order to just to threaten. And also there are other incidents that have reported to me as well as to other persons. So that intimidations and threat is going on. And recently I also got a news that some of the so-called rehabilitated LTT members were called for inquiry. So this kind of intimidation is still going on. So on the whole, when I look at the human rights situation in Sri Lanka, since the end of the war, there is no much change in the northeast and in the whole of Sri Lanka. So what is my pledge, my request is that until we are safeguarded by the law, by the norms of the law, we will continuously face threat in the future also. What is my concern is here, the Muslims were in some way the pet of the government, Sinhalese, during the war, and they were supported. They themselves have told, and one of the army commanders also have told to the media, saying that because of their support, they won the war against the LTT. So what is my concern here, if this situation, if this violation is happening to the Muslims now who were always supporting the government, so what would be the worst situation if it happens to the Tamils? So that is my question, and also my the threat that is within the Tamil community. So unless until we don't want to any just okay, we'll see, we'll get into the reconciliation and those things, we don't want to we want to hear any this kind of promises. We want a solid answer that we should be safeguarded by the law, that is only through self-determination. Without that, we cannot get any solutions within Sri Lanka. Even the domestic inquiry, domestic process is kind of an eyewash. It's not going to yield any justice to the victims. So with that, without taking much time, since there are other persons to speak, with that input, I will stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Father, for portraying exactly what's happening in Sri Lanka in terms of structural genocide continuing. So now I would like to invite Mr. G. Ponnampulam, President of TNP, of former Member of Parliament of Sri Lanka, to explain and strengthen human rights in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'll continue from where Father Sebelmali left off. His last point was that you have the most recent scenario is where you have a community, particularly the political leadership of the Muslim people, right through the conflict between the Tamils and the Sri Lankan state, essentially either supported the state or they remain neutral. Very few individuals sided with the Tamil struggle. So when you have a scenario where as a community, and certainly the leadership of the community either taking the side of the state or at best remaining neutral, that you can have the sort of incidents that took place over the last 2 weeks, where the community was targeted and the state machinery just simply watched. I think is an eye-opener. And now one father, when he spoke before me, tried to raise the question that's baffling. Why is it that you have such a scenario where the Muslim people were being targeted? And in order to understand the cycle of violence and human rights violation and international humanitarian law violations that have taken place in Sri Lanka, not just during the war, but even before the war and after the war, if you don't understand the context in which these violations are taking place, then I think we will just keep being surprised and not really find answers. Now, from a Tamil perspective, we have from the very inception, our argument has been that the Sri Lankan state is not a liberal state. It is not a liberal democracy. Quite the contrary. If you look at Sri Lanka, the transformation that has been taking place in the last 70 years is one of a possible ideal liberal democracy towards an ethnocracy. Right? The state has been deliberately transforming and reinforcing its ethnocratic credentials, primarily a Sinhala Buddhist ethnocracy. And anyone who challenges that credential of Sri Lanka being a Sinhala Buddhist country is dealt with. And it's dealt with not through one-off episodes of violence, but is systematic violence. And I'm using the term violence here in a fairly broad way. It is basically laying hands on the very existence of groups that challenge the notion that Sri Lanka is a Sinhala Buddhist country. The Tamils being the foremost, numerically the foremost other, and also primarily because the Tamils also have a claim to territory, were the first targets. They were the first people who had to be brought in line with this notion of a Sinhala Buddhist state. So before the war, what you saw happening was very similar to what the Muslim people are being subjected to right now. Tamils being the first target, they had to be blown, they had to be taught a lesson and brought in line. And in the process, the Tamils reacted through an armed struggle. And when the armed struggle took root, the human rights community, the global community, very unfortunately forgot about the circumstances that actually led to the Tamils taking arms, and conveniently took on the position that it was a fight against terrorism, and as a result, to some extent, were even prepared to justify some of the violations that took place. These are very credible human rights so-called international institutions themselves were prepared to, they spoke in terms of balance, where you had all of a sudden two parties that are fighting and they had to be treated in a balanced way, without actually trying to identify what the root causes of these violations are. So that's a serious problem. Today there is no armed struggle. You might want to continue to justify the violations that are taking place against the Tamil people as being a hangover from that armed struggle where the state is trying to clean its house and get rid of the remaining terrorists or terrorism. But you can't make that case with regards to the Muslims. You can't, the picture with regards to what has happened to the Muslims post-war does not fit in, and the only way it will fit in, with that narrative, the only way it will fit in is to understand the very nature of the transformation of the Sri Lankan state that is taking place, which is essentially a Sinhala Buddhist ethnocracy. So our view is that, as Father Sebamali concluded, if the non-Sinhala Buddhist groupings do not have legally secured, institutionally secured, constitutionally accepted identities recognized and their territories and their cultures safeguarded, this cycle of violence will only increase. Let us not forget that how bold today Sri Lanka is with regards to going after the other groupings, is that whilst the Human Rights Council sessions had commenced, normally Sri Lanka tries to show itself as a good, individual during the times of the sessions or just before the sessions, but that is the nature and the cycle and the emboldening effect of this transformation towards ethnocracies and the culture of impunity that is being promoted by the member states of this council also in this quite troublesome picture. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ponnambalam, even going further to the level that what could be the potential solution for the crisis in Sri Lanka, and this how to stop this structural genocide, what could be the exact solution. Thank you for proposing the solutions as well. And now I would like to give the floor to Father Jay Bolan Cruz. He is one of the earliest person who came to United Nations from Sri Lanka and fighting for the cause since decade. So as I said, thank you, Father. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, nowadays when you speak of human rights in Sri Lanka, you just can't forget or evade the current situation, the violence against us, the Muslims. Both speakers before me, they referred to it. I think I'll mainly deal with that, but little later. I want to say more things with regard to what Father Sebamali said, at least with regard to two things. I work very much with the people in the ground. So last time also my intervention in the main floor was about Mulikulam people. Actually that's a big tragedy according to me, because at one point they also started a big demonstration in the main road, and our bishop and many dignitaries, they went to meet them, and then the Navy was occupying their village, and it was a big cheat. The Navy, together with our Vicar General, the Vicar General is the head of our diocese, and priests, along with them, and the parish priest, the priest in charge, they said, okay, you go back, we give the whole village to you. And these people just believed them and left. Not simply left, they went to their church, which was also occupied, and they had a big celebration. They had a big religious service, and then afterwards a big banquet to celebrate the giving of the land to them. But nothing happened. Nothing happened. They were just taken for a ride. So the situation is not, they were fighting, and they said the land will be given to you, and then now zero, nothing. They can only go from the jungles. They are now living about 4 kilometers away from their church. They are being transported for masses to the religious services to the church, and then the school children, the school buildings happen to be near the church, and the school children are transported every day in a bus, morning and evening. So that's a very sad situation there. And also I would like to say, maybe the next speaker will speak about the missing people and the land grab more. In 5 places we had the demonstrations. And already in more than 3 places or 4 places, they have completed 1 year, 365 days. So they are asking for their children. They are missing. Missing is not the correct word. Actually, they were made missing. Okay, enforced disappearance, and they are asking for their children. So the missing people come under different categories. You see, there was this Paranagama Commission, to which more than 24,000 people complained that their relatives were missing. 24,000. That includes the relatives of the Sri Lankan army also. But study says that over 18,000 they are from the Tamils. Those complaints made. Maybe 1 or 2 of the persons are here in Europe. Okay, they were missing from there and they have landed here. But the cases are there. Okay, that may be a handful. Okay, few comparatively. Mind you, hundreds are people who were handed down to the army by their wives or mothers or relatives. They are not missing people. Okay? They are not missing people. They were handed down, say, together with Father Francis Joseph. Because he was a priest, he went with a garb, and then they said it will be safer for the people if they were surrendered or handed down to the army. They wrote the details of everybody, and they took the name of Anandi Sasidharan. Was I found? Yeah, it's here, Madam Anandi Sasidharan. Actually, her husband also is married. He was handed over. So what they are asking, where are the people who were handed over to you? Well, that's a serious case. And the president, once when they met them, when he met them, he said, "We will. There is a list, and I will make that list available." This happened, I think, for the 100th day completion. But now 365 days, 380 days are over. Now that list is not released. So again, the people are being cheated. They are asking, we don't want, if our children are dead and gone, we want what happened to them, how they were killed, so that we can have a service, religious service, and finish off the thing. So remember that there are various categories among the people who are missing. Not all are missing. Some were actually given to the army. They were surrendered. Okay, now coming back to this Muslim problem, I think the Honorable former MP Gajendra Kumar, he explained very well. He connected to the real situation. I can't do that very much, but then I'll share my experience. Last Sunday, at a religious service, I used to give my sermons, question and answers. Okay, there were small children and people. In 2 places, I asked what happened during last week about the Muslims. So they were mostly quiet, but 1 or 2 of them said this was a clash between the Muslims and the Sinhalese. This was a clash between the Muslims, or ethnic disturbance. And one chap went further to say a group of Muslims killed a Sinhalese lorry driver, and because of that this happened. Okay, that was the initial incident. They didn't kill. There was an accident, and there was a problem, and this fellow was injured, and he was in the hospital, and he died after 1 week. And the people, 4 people, they were arrested. When he died, something happened. So I told them, I explained to them in my sermon, this is not racial violence. This is violence against one particular religion and community by another religion and religious community. When this is not an ethnic disturbance or anything. So Impunity is the central word there. Impunity. Those people who committed the violence against another people, they must be arrested, they must be punished, a court case must go on. This did not happen. This did not, for this only we were clamoring. See, according to my former bishop, Bishop Raipu Joseph, 146,679 people are unaccounted for in the struggle, in the last stages of the ethnic war, the war which ended in 2009, May 18. So, there have been so many people speaking about it, and even UN, internal panel, they said 70,000 people, they died during the last stages. But nothing is happening. I mean, nobody is brought to books. There is impunity. Those people, including the army, the navy, the soldiers, as well as now, even the other young people, there were school children who were engaged in the violence against the Muslims. Okay? They think that they can do this, and they are doing it for the good of the country. They are taught that way, and they escape punishment. So, because of impunity, which is very prevalent in our country, these things are going. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Jayvalan Cruz, for explaining in detail and what's really happening in the real situation, because he's working directly with the people and he's meeting people every day, so he understands the real situation. Well, thank you so much. And now I would like to invite Mrs. Simit Katsan Chandraleela, and she's going to talk about the land grabbing, what's going on now in Sri Lanka, and about the missing people as well. She's one of the victims, and she's going to share the real situation there, so we can listen to her. And I would like to request Father Jayvalan to translate her from Tamil to English. Thank you, Father.
வணக்கம், சந்திரலீலா, மனித உரிமை செயற்பாட்டாளர், முல்லைத்தீவு மாவட்டம், கேப்பாபுலவு.
Vanakkam, greetings to everybody. I am Chandralekha, human rights activist.
நாங்கள் ஒரு வருடத்தை நிறைவு பெற்றும் இத்தவரைக்கும் எங்களோட பூர்வீகமான நிலங்கள் விடுவிக்க வேண்டும் என்று சொல்லி தொடர் போராட்டத்தில் ஈடுபட்டு கொண்டிருக்கிறோம்.
We started our demonstration, and the demonstration was going on for over 1 year in order that the lands grabbed from us may be released, but nothing is happening up to date.
2008 டிசம்பர் மாதம் 25ஆம் தேதி எமது பூர்வீகமான நிலத்தை விட்டு வெளியேறினோம்.
We got out of these our traditional lands in 2008 December 28th.
நாங்கள் இத்தவரைக்கும் பலவிதமான போராட்டங்களை முன்னெடுத்திருந்தோம். அதில் பலன் எதுவும் கிடைக்காத விதத்தில் இப்ப தொடர் போராட்டமாக ஒரு வருடத்தை பூர்த்தி செய்து கொண்டிருக்கின்றோம். கேப்பாபுலவு.
I'm from Kepapulavu, and then we over a year we have done many demonstrations, or we were fighting for the release of our lands, for the traditional lands, and nothing has happened.
எங்களோட போராட்டத்தின் பலனாக 2018 ஜனவரி மாதம் 1ஆம் தேதி வந்து ஒரு தொகுதி நிலங்கள் விடுவிக்கப்பட்டிருந்தது.
January
1ஆம் தேதி.
On account of our struggle to regain our land, in 2018, January 1st, portion of our land was released.
அதில் 111 ஏக்கர் 38 குடும்பங்களுக்குரிய நிலம் விடுவிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது.
It consisted of 111 acres, which was for 38 people.
அதில் வந்து இன்னும் 100 குடும்பங்களுக்கு உரிய 181 ஏக்கர் விடுவிக்க வேண்டியிருக்கிறது.
We still have 187 acres which belong to another 100 persons there.
அந்த விடுவிக்க வேண்டிய பகுதியில் தான் ஸ்கூல், ப்ரீ ஸ்கூல், பொதுநோக்கு மண்டபம், கிந்து கிறிஸ்தவர்களுடைய மயானம், கிந்து கிறிஸ்தவர்களுடைய ஆலயங்கள், பொது கட்டிடங்கள் அத்தனையும் விடுபடாத பகுதிக்குள்ள தான் இருக்கிறது.
The non-released portion of the land consists of very, very important buildings, schools, churches, and the cemeteries for both Hindu and Christians, and multipurpose society, this hall. Hindu temple also, sorry. Churches.
அப்படி இருக்கும் நிலையில் இன்றைக்கு அந்த 111 ஏக்கருக்கும் சென்றிருந்த மீள்குடியேற்றம் செய்யப்பட்ட 38 குடும்பங்களுக்கான அவர்கள் இந்த கிணறுகள் முற்றுமுழுதாக அளிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது, மலசொல கூடங்கள் முற்றுமுழுதாக அளிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது.
You remember the 111 acres were released for 38 families, and when they went there, they saw that their toilets and the well, usually each house has a well, and they were completely destroyed.
இதுவரையும் மீள்குடியேற்றம் செய்து 3 மாதங்களாகி எந்தவித அடிப்படை வசதிகளும் அந்த மீள்குடியேற்றம் செய்யப்பட்ட மக்களுக்கு வழங்கப்படவில்லை.
It's been 3 months since they went back, they were resettled, but the government has not done any the facilities, basic essential facilities.
இன்றைக்கு அந்த குடும்பங்கள் முற்றுமுழுதாக மீள்குடியேற்றம் செய்யப்பட்டிருந்தால் முழுமையாக அந்த பாடசாலை மாணவர்கள் இந்த கல்வி நிலை நல்ல நிலையில் சென்றிருக்கும். இன்றைக்கு அந்த மக்கள் அந்த இடத்துக்கு செல்ல இல்லாத நிலைமையில இருக்குது, முழு இடமும் மீள்குடியேற்றம் செய்யப்படாததால்.
Since it was only partially released, the important institutions like the school and the education is not happening, so it's the resettlement is not complete.
இன்றைக்கு முன்பள்ளி சிறார்களுக்கு 5 கிலோமீட்டருக்கு அப்பால் செல்ல வேண்டி இருக்கின்றது பாடசாலைக்கு. மற்ற பிள்ளைகளுக்கு 7 கிலோமீட்டருக்கு அப்பால் செல்ல வேண்டி இருக்கும் நிலையில் அந்த பிள்ளைகள் அந்த இடத்தில் வரையிலாத ஒரு நிலப்பாடு. 111 ஏக்கர்ல மக்களை இருத்தி சுத்தி வர ராணுவ முகாம், முன்னுக்கு மக்கள் குடியிருப்புகளில் ராணுவ முகாம், பய அச்சத்தில் பாடசாலைக்கு செல்ல இல்லாத நிலையில் அந்த சிறார்கள் இருக்கிறார்கள்.
The preschool children they have to travel 5 kilometers, and the school children they have to go 7 kilometers. Although the land was released, the schools are on the other side of the land which is not released. The children are afraid to go to those schools.
இந்த மீள்குடியேற்றம் கூடி இலங்கை அரசாங்கத்தினால் திட்டமிடப்பட்ட செயலாகத்தான் நாங்கள் கருதுகின்றோம்.
We consider the relocation as a pre-planned activity of the government.
நாங்கள் 8 வருடங்களாக இலங்கை அரசாங்கத்தை நம்பியிருந்து எங்களுக்கு நீதி கிடைக்காத பட்சத்தில் இன்றைக்கு ஐநாவை நாடி வந்துள்ளோம்.
8 years we trusted this government, and even now there is we have not got justice. That's why we came towards the UN.
இதே போன்று எங்கட வடமாகாணத்தில் பல இடங்களில் நில ஆக்கிரமிப்பு நடைபெற்றுக் கொண்டிருக்கிறது, நடந்தும் இருக்கிறது.
In the same way, in the whole of our northern province, land grabbing has happened and still happening now.
காணாமல் ஆக்கப்பட்ட உறவுகள் தங்களுடைய உறவுகளை தேடி ஒரு வருடம் நிறைவு பெற்ற நிலையிலும் போராட்டம் தொடர்ந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது.
In the same way, the enforced disappearance, those people the families who are looking out for their children, the family members, they have also completed their demonstration for over 1 year, and still nothing has happened.
இலங்கை அரசாங்கத்தால் காணாமல் போனோர் அலுவலகம் என்று சொல்லி ஒன்று அமைப்பதாக சொல்லப்பட்டிருக்கிறது.
Sri Lankan government told us that they are going to start or begin an office for missing persons, OMP.
நாங்கள் அந்த அலுவலகம் திறக்க முன்பதாகவே பாதிக்கப்பட்ட மக்களாகிய நாங்கள் சொல்லியிருந்தோம், எங்கள் காணாமல் போகவில்லை, நாங்கள் எங்கட உறவுகளையும் நாங்கள் தொலைக்கவில்லை, எங்கட உறவுகளை நாங்கள் கையால் ஒப்படைக்கப்பட்டது.
Even before they set up this OMP, we told the government that they did not go missing, they did not disappear, we handed them over to you.
காணாமல் போனோர் அலுவலகம் அல்ல, காணாமல் ஆக்கப்பட்டோர் அலுவலகமாக திறக்கப்பட வேண்டும். அந்த அலுவலகத்துக்கு ஆணையாளர் நியமனம் செய்யப்படும் போது கூடியவாக தமிழ் மக்கள் அந்த அலுவலகத்தில் பங்கு பெற்ற வேண்டும். யுத்தத்தில் ஈடுபட்ட யாருமே அந்த ஆணையாளராக இருக்கக்கூடாது என்று பல கோரிக்கைகளை நாங்கள் முன்வைத்திருந்தோம்.
We made many requests saying that the name itself should be changed. It's not missing persons, but then those persons who were made missing or enforced disappearance, the name of the organization. And also in the committee, the people who are involved in making these people disappear or involved in the war should not participate.
இப்பொழுது எங்களோட கோரிக்கைகள் எதுவுமே அங்கு செல்லுபடியற்றதாக போயுள்ளது. அந்த அலுவலகம் காணாமல் போனோர் அலுவலகம் என்று திறக்கப்படுகிறது. அந்த ஆணையாளர் தெரிவு முடிவடைந்துள்ளது. அந்த ஆணையாளரில் ஓய்வு பெற்ற இராணுவ அதிகாரி ஒருவரை நியமிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது.
Now they did not listen to us. The name is still OMP, Office of Missing Persons, and then the commissioner there is a retired army personnel.
நாங்கள் அந்த காணாமல் போனோர் அலுவலகத்தை ஏற்றுக்கொள்ளவில்லை.
We do not accept the OMP.
நாங்கள் அதை நம்பவும் இல்லை.
We don't even believe that.
நாங்கள் இன்றைக்கு 5 வருடங்களாக காணாமல் ஆக்கப்பட்ட எங்கள் உறவுகளை 2009 மே மாதம் 18ஆம் தேதி இராணுவத்தில் ஒப்படைக்கப்பட்ட 15 பேர் ஸ்ரீலங்கா அரசாங்கத்தின் நீதிமன்றத்தில் வழக்கு தாக்கல் செய்துள்ளோம்.
In 2008 May 18, we handed down many people to the government, and we have started case for 15 people with the Sri Lankan courts, in the Sri Lankan courts.
இன்றைக்கு 6 வருடமாகியும் இந்த நீதி எங்களுக்கு கிடைக்காத பட்சத்தில் இந்த OMB அலுவலகத்தில் இந்த இராணுவ அதிகாரி ஒரு ஆணையாளராக இருக்கும் பொழுது எப்படி எங்களுக்கு நீதி கிடைக்கும்?
So we fought for 5 years through the courts, and those people were not people who were missing, they were people who were handed over, and we are fighting for 5 years in the courts and we have not got any relief. So how do we expect an office, OMP, which has a commissioner, ex-army official, to give us any answer or relief?
எங்களுக்கு இந்த OMB என்று சொல்லப்படும் அலுவலகம் தேவையும் இல்லை. நாங்கள் அந்த அலுவலகத்துக்கு செல்ல போவதும் இல்லை. நாங்கள் முற்றுமுழுதாக அந்த அலுவலகத்தை புறக்கணிக்கின்றோம்.
We do not want the OMP. We are not going to the OMP. We outright reject that office of OMP.
எங்களுக்கு உள்ளக விசாரணை தேவையில்லை. எங்களுக்கு உள்ளக விசாரணை நம்பிக்கை இல்லை. நாங்கள் சர்வதேச விசாரணை தேவை என்று சொல்லி இந்த இடத்துல கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறோம்.
We don't want any internal inquiry or internal mechanism for the crimes committed. We want the external international inquiry.
நன்றி.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chandralila, for exactly portraying what's happening about the Kepapulu land grabbing as well as missing people, and that clearly shows the structural genocide after the genocide in 2009 still continuing. So there's they never stopped yet. So it's a continuous process. What they want to do there in the north and east of Sri Lanka to completely eradicate the identities of Tamils and completely finish the Tamil population economically, politically, and socially and culturally. In all ways, they want to just eradicate the complete system there. So we should understand the international community. We should understand from the time immemorial, like from the ages, Tamils and Sinhalese never lived together. So they used to have their own nation. So basically Tamils had their own nation. So it clearly shows they are two different ethnic. So for the past 70 years, the experiment we made after the colonization of British period, we did an experiment of trying to live together, which didn't work out basically, and ended up in genocide. So one ethnicity just trying to completely eradicate another ethnicity is completely a structural genocide, isn't it? As per the United Nations as well. So it is an invasion. That's what happening, you know. So if more than 140,000 people, as Father Cruz said, you know, it disappeared. So this is absolutely a genocide. So we urge the international community to stop the structural genocide that's even now going on, you know, in Sri Lanka day-to-day life, and we want the historical Tamil Eelam land to be reclaimed, and please stop this invasion going on towards the Tamil land. And this is the aspiration of not only from Tamil Eelam people from Sri Lanka, and this is the aspiration of, now it's turning towards the aspiration of the Tamil people all over the world. So we have, like, you know, more than 120 million Tamils, 80 million Tamils living in, more than 80 to 100 million Tamils living in India as well, and all over the world. So this is the aspiration of you know, all Tamils from all over the world. So we should understand this, and thank you so much for your time. And I would like to open the session for a short question and answer session, but we don't have much time. We have like 8 minutes left, so I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jayapalan and Chandralekha and Savani and Panambalam for highlighting the issue. But the transitional justice mechanism is a total failure in Sri Lanka. So what the Tamil community as a victim, how we are going to bring that out? Because as the lady Chandralekha says, that we don't recognize the office of missing person, we reject it. So if the victims are not going to be part of the office of missing person, so why the missing person is there other than to find the missing of the army personnel who have been gone missing or escaped or run away or whatever. So what are we going to do about it, and what is the solution? Because the 2 years have been given to the and 1 year is already passed, and High Commissioner himself has said that nothing has happened except this OMP. So even the positive step of OMP is rejected. So what the Tamil community really asking the international community to do, and what is the solution they want the international community to come up with?
Father Silmala, please answer this, or Father Cruz.
Yeah, thank you very much. You must have seen the stand of the victims since the end of the war, 2009. That is, even the victims and the activists, human rights activists in the Northeast, are continuously calling for an international inquiry. It was not heard. And then, because of strategy of the UN, they have, in a way, in a recommendation, a resolution, they have passed. And this hybrid mechanism. That also the government didn't implement. And now they are going for a domestic mechanisms. To date, until now, the victims and the activists in the Northeast who are present are completely reject this mechanism, this domestic mechanism. But when I look at the international stand, they are taking completely against the wishes of the victims. See, when we requested the victims who are waiting for justice, requested international mechanism, a hybrid mechanism, and they couldn't give us. And when the government completely reject the hybrid system and when they go for the domestic mechanism, the international world is being silent. When we look at the situation now, the OMB they have started instituted the Office of the Missing Person, and also they have appointed a retired army personnel as a commissioner, one of the commissioners, to see in the media the representative, maybe the representative American representative government. He has said that he welcomed the OMB. And when we talk with the dignitaries of the or representative of these countries, they say, let's give a chance, let's look at it, let's wait. So when we said that don't give 2 years, the government is not going to do anything, but they gave this. So when I look at the whole system, they are, I don't know, because of their inability to do anything to do with the Sri Lankan government, or just giving time, just give time to the OMB, whatever it is said and done, they are not listening to the victims' wishes. So, what is my request is here, the victim stand is very quiet and clear. There is no any change in the wishes and the request of the victims. So, and what those who here or any people who are here need to pressurize the international world. At least one country should stand and say, see, look at this. This is the request of the victims. Please stand for that. Stand for them, rather than standing for the of the government. So that is my request and wishes.
Yeah, that's a good question and a good answer. But I think it's not a failure of the transitional justice system. Okay, we can't criticize the transitional justice. Transitional justice is very, very vast, and so many countries that has been applied. Some countries, no country says we had 100% success with transitional justice mechanism. Okay, some countries are okay with that. So in some countries it's failure, and Sri Lankan countries it is utter failure in Sri Lanka. So it's not the system that is. Actually, I did a course on transitional justice. They say you can't apply one system to another one. Each situation is unique. So I would say those people who handle this or brought in transition, why did the government accept in 2030th section? Why? In order to escape from the international clause. Okay. So that is the reason. So we have to say, along with Father Subhamala, that the government or the international community should listen to the voice of the victims, not the voice of the victors. So it is very clear what the Tamil people are asking. It's for justice, and also not meted out by domestic system or even the hybrid system which they promised a hybrid system, and now they are saying, I mean, there's no need of a hybrid system. Who is saying? The head, the Prime Minister and the President, they are saying, we are not going to implement them. So the fault lies with the government and the governors. So it's very clear. I mean, there is no question about it. We should go for an international mediation. Thank you.
So one second, I know on the same question. Why the victims are not speaking with the same voice? Because the TNA and everybody else is having different voices. So why the victims are not speaking with one voice? That is where the problem is, I think, because the international community is hearing so many voices of different descents and they are not getting the same voices. So as a victim of ourselves, I am a victim of 1983, which my grandfather and my uncle has been shot inside the house and killed by the army. Still I am waiting for the justice. And I'm asking why it's happening and what we had to do about it. If you can say something on that line.
I understand,
Yeah,
sir.
okay.
The unity is very important. We should work on it at the same time. Yeah, Yes, we have now. We can also follow up. We can have a discussion on that, and we can sort out ourselves. And now we have another, group waiting for us, and we should not let other people wait as well. And I really appreciate your questions. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, all of you, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cool.